Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Hangout of Witches. I'm so glad to see all of you in the chat already. I know we're a couple of minutes late, but hello, I'm Beth, owner of The Cool Table, and we're here to talk about A Discovery of Witches, Season 2, Episode 2. So if you are here for the first time, welcome. We have lots of Hangouts for you to watch in our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page about other shows and books. But right now, we're just having fun discussing Discovery of Witches because it's such a great show. So thank you for being here. And I just want to say hi to my whole panel. If you're drinking, tell us what you're drinking.
Hi, I'm Lachey. Nice to meet everyone. Hi. I'm not actually drinking tonight. I'm actually doing water. So I'm trying to stay hydrated, I guess. And I enjoyed the second episode a lot. So
good.
Looking forward to it.
Heidi, are you drinking tonight? Did your husband make you something lovely?
I'm drinking whiskey this time. And my name's Heidi. I am the token Discovery of Witches virgin in the whole situation here. I have not read the books. I just binged the whole first season right before, it's 2 weeks ago, right before the new season dropped. And now I'm watching it as they come out each week. I have not seen ahead. I am in the moment, ready to talk. I have so many questions. You have no idea.
I believe that you have questions. It's a very confusing period in time in this show. Karen, say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen. Again, drinking club soda. I'm with you, Lachey. Just, I wish there was something more in it, but I'm going to be strong and keep going. I'm still eating cheese, though. At least I have that.
I'm having tea in my Discovery of Witches mug.
Humble brag.
I mean, maybe they sent me the cheapest swag they could find. Maybe. But I just did not want to drink. We drank a couple of nights ago. We had a happy hour that was live, and it was too long, and I drank too much. And I haven't recovered because I'm old now. I'm real old now. My birthday was 6 days ago, and I'm very old. So just tea tonight, guys. Just tea. And speaking of tea, let's discuss the Discovery of Witches. Let's spill some tea. What you guys, how did you feel about episode 2? I will say very quickly that if I think episode 2 is my least favorite of the episodes that I've seen so far this season. And I've seen most of the season. And it wasn't my fave. What did you guys think?
I thought it was confusing. I thought there's a lot not being said, and I'm trying to figure out, if you're not a book reader, how you know what's happening. Because if you've read the books, at least up until this point, you kind of haven't, motivations and things like that. And I guess with all shows, you can't really speak out loud each thought that the character is having, but I think there's a lot kind of left out of this episode, and I can see why it would be confusing to people who haven't read the books and just, are trying to keep up.
Yeah, that's what Purely Muse is just saying. She's missing something, by not reading the books. The show's not very clear. I totally agree. Heidi, are you confused?
I feel though, I'm less confused in season 2, unless I'm missing all of the undertones. I'm way less confused in season 2 than I was in season 1. In season 1, I felt like I missed all of the world building. I had no idea what demons, what their power was. I had to ask. I had no idea why Matthew Good was a vampire who wore, I don't know, sweater sets instead of now. I get it now. Matthew Good is so hot in this leather in 1590s. Super hot. I'm loving the vibes, and it's dark and it's dangerous, and all of the stakes have been really raised compared to last season. And that might be for me because I didn't super connect to Diana's character. Even her braids are working for me now. The things that really bugged me, her frumpy clothes are gone because she's in the awesome costumes. So no, I have no idea what's happening, but as a show watcher, I feel like I'm not supposed to know what's happening. They're building the suspense for what's coming. I do have questions though. I can't remember why. I know why Diana needs to go back for a teacher, and they're hiding from the danger in modern times. But what was the reason that Matthew needed to go back in time? There was a reason. There's something that he's looking for too, right? Or am I wrong about that?
they're both looking for the Book of Life. They feel like they can get it at an earlier time because they can't get it in the present without so many people coming after them. So they can go back and get everything they need from it when it existed earlier.
They have no idea where it is in present time, but they actually have a marker in time of where it was in the 16th century. And I think Matthew goes back because he's never going to let her out of his sight. And he's the one that can navigate that world as well. So that's, I think, the stakes there. I actually really liked this episode, but not because anything really happened. I thought it was very slow. I don't mean boring at all. It was just very tempoed. And there were some Easter eggs about follow-on stories. I think we're introduced to the notion of Philippe de Clermont. And if the vampire that rules over the city of London has a truce with him and uses him as a threat against Matthew and is clearly afraid of him himself, who is Philippe de Clermont, right? So that was introduced. We also learned the name of the witch that was in the prison, Thomas Caldwell.
A lot. We learned his name a lot. They said
a lot, right? It's like, oh, we forgot to mention this in episode 1. We better say it every other freaking word in episode 2. And we saw where that got us. So I think it was a ton of setup, but I love the atmospherics. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I loved the episode. Was it a great episode? It was a bridger.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the way the show feels is spot on for me. There's nothing about the period garments or London or anything like that. Like when you watch, Elizabeth with Cate Blanchett, or you watch Shakespeare in Love, everything feels ostentatious and large and clean and all of that kind of stuff. The atmosphere of this one feels more like London was almost, yes, it's a city, but it feels like a medieval village and not.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah, everything is.
The roofs are small, right? Everything is cramped.
Yes.
There's no daylight.
Yes. And I think Diana in the book calls it, when she first sees the skyline to 1590, she's like, oh, it looks like a demented hedgehog because it's all spiky and low to the ground kind of even for the time. And so I think that there's a lot of, all of that feels perfect.
Yeah.
Mary Sydney's rooms feel contained the way that they should. The little bar that Kit and Matthew, the second floor bar that they're drinking at, that feels correct. Instead of some big ostentatious set like other shows where it doesn't feel like it should be real. So I'm cool with how everything feels and looks.
I sort of expected Jon Stark to walk down the balcony during that scene.
Yeah,
because I think they borrowed that set from Game of Thrones. It was very reminiscent of the wall.
Yeah, it looked like Winterfell to me.
It did.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I have to go back and look for Winterfell, and I didn't notice that at all. But
not that anybody's ever gonna rewatch Game of Thrones. We're not, but
I will. Hell yeah, I'm gonna rewatch it. I just won't watch the last 3 shitty episodes.
Shelley just said the cinematography on the show is good. A lot of period shows, I feel, make everything really dark and hope for the best, but this show isn't like that. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Stark when it needs to be.
Oh, I see what you did there. Little Stark reference. I like it.
Hey, man. What bothers me about this episode a little bit is there is so much setup for things that I think just aren't clear. So Matthew is a spy for Cecil. Cecil he already tortured Thomas Caldwell at the end of episode 1. And yet in this episode, they're like, when are you going to go to the tower and torture the witch? He did it at the end of episode 1. So it doesn't really make sense. I guess it was just like, that was his introduction to that witch.
I was confused by that. Until this episode, I had no idea that guy was a witch. I thought he was like a Catholic that he was torturing.
Right.
He was a Catholic witch.
Oh, he's a Catholic witch.
Maybe.
Oh, missed that. Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand him being dropped in at all. I guess it's kind of a plot device to get to Philippe, possibly, but the whole build up with it, even them saying that Matthew wasn't actually doing his job, he was kind of avoiding it and everything. That kind of was a little
Yeah.
Didn't make sense.
The dichotomy of the two characters is really obviously brought to life in this episode. Diana has no history. She's been spellbound her whole life. She barely remembers her parents. She doesn't know anything about her family. So she's a historian with no history. But going back in time really illustrates that Matthew has hundreds of years of history and dozens of personalities. And the one that we're seeing is the ruthless spy master. I will torture and kill people, A, because my father is making me do it, but B, because of my deep and abiding hate of witches and the supremacy of vampires. So plot device, yes. I hope that it pays off later. I think that we could have seen how ruthless Royden was differently, but we've now spent an episode and a half on it. So I guess we're in for the long haul on that one.
Yeah, I think that they needed to find a way to pull in his loyalty to the queen and his job for the queen, his fear of Philippe, which hasn't really been shown. I mean, he did kind of go into his blood rage a little bit, freaking out that Philippe would find out about Diana, which isn't super clear about why that's happening. And Father Hubbard having, some power over what's going on. They had to all converge in one point. Because I don't remember how Cecil gets him back into the world of spying for the queen in the book, but regardless, if they all had one central point that they could be focusing on, then it's easier to explain who Matthew is in this time. And if they had to do something separately, Father Hubbard's worried about this and Cecil's worried about this and Philippe's worried about something else, it would pull too many threads the other way because Thomas Caldwell doesn't exist in the book.
Correct. I think that Matthew in the book actually was in Berwick. That is all true to the storyline.
Yeah.
I think if I could just touch on what you said about Philippe, one of the things that bothers me is, and I've read these books, not 7 times like Molly has, but many times over, I never once thought that Matthew was afraid of Philippe. He was in awe of him. He worshipped him. He was never afraid of him.
Yeah.
He was afraid of seeing him in the past because he knows what happens to him in the then future. Yeah. So that threat was kind of like,
I think maybe
true to me.
Maybe they haven't fleshed it out. It looks like he's afraid of Philippe because Father Hubbard's like, I'm going to tell your dad.
Yeah.
But the truth is, which is weird because why would Father Hubbard need to make that threat?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a threat. But for Matthew, the fear is he doesn't want to see him because he doesn't want to confront what will happen to him if he has to see his father again, knowing how his father is.
Well, and he's grieved him already.
Right.
I mean, seeing a ghost, all the unsaid things maybe that he wanted to say in the 600 years that they were on the earth together. There's clearly deep trauma. And that was actually a storyline in the book that I loved, the deep trauma that Matthew and his mother felt over Philip's death.
Yeah.
That could have been 100% part of this series. I don't think it will be necessarily, but yeah, I hope there's a payoff. I'm going to be patient because I'm loving the show so far. It's an adaptation. I get that they're making choices, but hold on, Heidi. It gets better.
No, I'm actually enjoying it. But I will say, as someone who has no idea about Philippe, I thought even from last season that he wasn't a great guy because he forced him into being in charge of this like Knights of the Round Table thing or whatever that thing is. Knights of Lazarus or I don't know. And then he also.
It's not.
It didn't play that way to me though. It didn't play as a great honor. So that's interesting to me that it's someone who's so important to him. I mean, I knew he was important because of how they talked about his death and all of that, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know too that Matthew was hoping that they could kind of get in, get out, and everything where Diana wouldn't have to interact with too many people and that they wouldn't necessarily change the future by altering anything in the past. But they didn't quite make that clear in this episode, I don't think. That was the motivation for maybe not wanting to see Philippe or interact with too many people or anything. They just, they kind of left that part out. So
yeah, I feel like just a simple line of, we can't get this involved in my former life. When Kit was telling him, you need to become Matthew Royden again, they're focusing on Matthew becoming ruthless again, or even hating witches again, or even doing all this. When the truth is, the function of that, of him becoming Matthew Royden, means he's embroiled in all of this again, which is exactly what they're trying not to do. And seeing his father doesn't just give him like a psychic punch of seeing someone who he's already grieved, who he grieved for real reasons that he doesn't want to dredge up, but it reinforms his entire history with Philippe, because Philippe would have known about Diana 500 years in Matthew's past.
Sure.
And it's and so there's this whole aspect of everything. The past 500 years I had with him was a lie, because I didn't know this was coming and he did.
I will say the politics part of it with Cecil and all of that made me feel like, okay, I feel like I should have, they expected me as a viewer to know this just from history, like just my own knowledge of what happened in history. Like there was no context for it. Like is Matthew Royden, they think he's English? Do they know he's French? Is he like, he's like a double spy? Like what is that happening?
He is, Matthew has lived for so long that in different eras of history, he has different personas.
Okay.
And he took on, when she wrote him as Matthew de Clermont, she actually, and this is what's interesting, I think, about this series, is she's a historian of Elizabethan England or Elizabethan London. And so she wanted to write this. So the first book and the first season is kind of like a way into this. Yeah. And so she wrote Matthew de Clermont as the historical figure Matthew Royden, who's very mysterious. They don't know anything about him. He was just a poet and a part of the School of Night. And so when Diana says, "Oh, the only one we don't know anything about," that's actually what Deborah Hartman wrote.
And so like Hawthorne, all those people were in the same School of Night that this Matthew Royden, who was an actual historical figure, is. Oh, that's smart.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any of that context. That's
right. And so that's what's frustrating about it, is because they gave us like one little throwaway line to the fact that this is a persona he took on in that era and who he became. And it's a whole thing. That he's a different person, because he's not Matthew de Clermont. He's not the French son of Philippe de Clermont, even though he is. He's Matthew Royden.
Okay.
Who's a poet.
Will we see other characters that he's had in history at some point in the show?
No. I don't know. Not like that.
Okay.
Lachey's looking like we do, and we're wrong. Are we wrong, Lachey? You've read it recently.
I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean,
because the only other one from that time period is Shakespeare, and you know, it's not given. I mean, he's kind of mentioned, but you know.
So they're not hopping through history though, like multiple. This is the Elizabethan times or modern times. That's like the whole context for the show. Gotcha.
The story that we know so far, yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but informing all of that is the fact that every single person that they come into contact with then knows about Diana, when Matthew himself does not.
Right. That's interesting.
So that's going to get more and more important, I guess, as it goes on.
Yeah. And that's where I'm guessing
it's not Outlander. It is not.
Is that I'm guessing though that's where the like backstory of the Shadow Prince comes from. Like her parents clearly knew something about her future with Matthew.
Because her father is a weaver. Actually, says that. And they're like, but it's never men. And she's like, he made himself one. I love that little, we're going to explain how this all worked. Actually, every part of Alsop is incredible.
That's when the show got really interesting to me, was the layers of, her family knows so much about her future already. And that's why they were protecting her. That's whenever the show got me, was that.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Her dad is obviously moved forward in time, gone back in time and recognized what's going to happen and who they are and why they're important to one another. And I think her mom's magic is important in that too. It's not just the fact that he was a time walker and could go back. It's what she knew as well, which is interesting. And I think the witch stuff was what worked the best for me in this episode. I mean, I really liked Matthew and Kit together, but I love the introduction of Goody Alsop. I mean, we saw her in the first episode, but that hat, so good.
It's so good.
Everything, her voice, her craggy fingers, every shot that they did with her. The rest of the witches were like, they did nothing for me at all.
I wanted to go back, I'm sorry, and see the first episode again, because It seemed like in the first episode she was saying that the witch, Diana, is coming, right? And telling the ladies that were sitting beside her, she's coming. This moon, whatever is happening, she'll be here this year. She's coming soon. And then when she meets, well, she never says that she wasn't expecting her. It does seem like she knew she was coming.
Yeah.
But they still seem a little, I'm surprised that the Reed seemed surprised, that Diana was there, that they didn't recognize that she might be a weaver, or that she was definitely special, or that this was a person that Goody had foretold was coming. I was just really surprised at that.
I think
agreed.
I think that they could have thought when she says she's arriving, it could be that a new witch is being born, not that a fully grown witch is going to be dropped into their lap, right? And then even though a fully grown witch has been dropped into their lap in the London, coven or whatever, I think they probably assumed that she would be powerful already and not somebody that they're having to vet and who has no skills. So
speaking of the vetting thing, I've watched this episode twice, and I was very confused by sort of the end of that scene where they encircle her. And it's kind of like they're all going, haha, just kidding. We were just testing you. Welcome. Did I misread that?
Yeah, that kind of threw me too.
I just think it was too quick. There was less.
Yeah.
They're skeptical. They're kind of telling her no. And they actually do this really kind of, it looks like a horror movie. They kind of move towards her as a group or whatever. And you're just like, yikes, step back. And they're not going to accept her. And then Goody Alsop's like, no, she's the greatest. And then she's like, it did feel like they were like, surprise, it's just a party for you. But I think it's just because they moved too quickly through that scene.
Something was cut out in the editing, I think, because something was off there. And I wonder is it Susan, the witch who looks like Sophie, right?
Yes.
She was standing apart from them in that scene.
Because she's not part of the Reed.
Yeah, she is.
No, she's not. She's just a regular witch.
Oh, right. She's not part of the council. That's
right.
That's correct. Not one of the leaders. That's right. Yeah. So she's part of the coven, but not part of the Reed. Okay, now that makes sense.
I was confused because they kept wanting her to prove her power, and never once did she say I made rain come backwards. She never talked herself up. She's always like, oh, I don't know anything. She did some shit.
I can't control it is different than I don't know anything.
Right.
Yeah. Bitches, I will show you my powers. I mean, something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, she seems so unsure of herself whenever her power is immense, but she just doesn't know how to control it. That seems, like a difference.
And this is the one thing I've thought about the episode. The time spent with Kit and Matthew was, it was fine. It was great.
No.
But I thought they could have cut down a little bit of that and shown a little bit more of her meeting the different members of the Reed, and maybe talking to them through, witch fire, witch water, witch wind, all of that stuff. But that's the only complaint I had about this episode is I thought that they could have shown a little bit more to do with the actual Reed versus showing Kit out playing someone.
I did not care about the Reed at all. Give me Kit looking at him with those longing eyes all day long. I won you this earring. Oh, he was giving. I keep calling it goth daddy vibes, but he was just he's in love with Matthew.
When Matthew put the earring in,
so good.
That was good. That was a very good moment.
Okay.
Lachey, you're just not as horny as they are. Just get on their level.
Hey, I believe that Matthew Good is as gorgeous as anyone, but yeah.
I mean, this is some classic queer baiting. I mean, yes, Matthew is in love with Diana and they are mated and ostensibly married, but the scenes between Kit and Matthew are
they are.
I mean, Kit is in love with him and Matthew has no compunction about indulging him in whatever it is he wants to do. I mean, he's in a church praying and Kit's like, don't you want to remember who the other side of Matthew Roy did? And he's like, yeah, I do. And then off they go. And he just want to scream he's just right back in it. Does he not know he's in love with him? Does he not care? It's just, it's crazy to me that they're just like letting that go. And then Matthew Good just comes out while they're playing cards. That's Matthew Good in that scene. Like it might as well have been an episode of The Wine Show because he's just playing himself. He's so happy. It's adorable. They are really good scenes. I mean, yes, the betting scene could have gone a little shorter, but Matthew Good is so himself. It's totally watchable. You can't look away.
Oh yeah. He's gorgeous. I mean, yeah, I just, I would have liked to see them because I just thought that they kind of left the Reed scene a little unfinished. I don't think they explained it enough, but possibly they will later. This may be coming.
Hold on, we have some like really crappy trolls, and I'm blocking them. Hold on. This is like the first time that's happened.
Awesome.
Ugh.
Yes, The Wine Show is good, Katie. Agreed. It's in my stacked list on Netflix.
Who is in it with him? Is it him and just him?
Well, and Beth's other husband.
Oh, is it Matthew Reese in that one also? Yeah, that's what I thought that was. I gotta watch that.
It's like a 1-2 punch for her.
Yeah.
This sucks. Sorry, guys. It's the first time I've had to block some commenters, some haters up in here.
Yeah,
I like it. I do not like it. This is
I love Whoopi. I'm over here.
I thought it was a compliment.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so I do want to talk a little bit about the present day stuff that we saw because we saw Satu and then we saw Em and Sarah and a little bit of Isabeau. And why do you think they started the episode with them? Did we need that right then?
No, we didn't need any of that shit.
Did we know that Fatu was a weaver?
Is she?
Yeah.
That's not clear to me.
I checked.
She goes and talks to her mother or her head witch or whatever and says, why didn't you tell me about these powers? But she says, because I was trying to protect you or something like that. I don't think it's clear that she's a weaver. She knows now what a weaver is or a time spinner is, but it's not clear to me that Satu is also one.
She said, though, the Mamu said, like, it's time for you to become who you are. It's time for you to become a weaver. That's what she said. It was like her last line. I watched it again.
She said?
Yeah.
And so
she's sitting at a loom. She's literally weaving.
Yeah, that was gorgeous. That was gorgeous.
Well, looming is big in Finland, and I know this because my mother is from Finland, and we carried a fucking loom from North Carolina to Wisconsin to California, back to North Carolina to Virginia to Utah, and back to Virginia. And when I moved my parents into their new house 2 years ago, I took that fucking loom apart, put it in the moving truck, and put it in their basement. So I'm here to tell you, looming is a big thing in Finnish culture.
Well, I'm for it. I like it. Jana just said she's called a weaver in season 1 by the Oracle Witch, and that is correct.
Oh, is she? Oh, okay.
Right before the headless or the bodiless witch gets burnt up.
That's right.
Yeah.
She says, "Thank you, Weaver."
All right, book readers. That's not in the book, though, right?
I didn't think
the
so.
Book. I checked the book tonight, and it is. She is a weaver in the book.
Dang, Molly! I guess I need to read it for the 5th time, huh?
Yeah. Where is Molly tonight?
Where is she?
I don't know.
Molly!
Emma said that she misses Em and Sarah. I wish there was a way to give them more airtime. I totally agree. And
who's that?
Who's what?
Diana's aunts.
The ants.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. They have such good chemistry, and I
do.
love their little relationship. I just love the way that they interact with one another, and they're very different, and it's very clear that they are incredibly different and are going to come at this from different sides and different modes of working through it. So I love their scene. I do wish there was a way to weave a little bit more of the present day into what's going on. But again, I think we're getting a lot of info dump. We're getting a lot of setup and everything for the stuff that's coming. So
I think first of all, I think Sarah is written terribly, probably the worst written character on the entire series. She gets the worst lines. Em is terrific. I love Valerie Pettiford. I think she was a sensational casting choice. But that relationship does not appear to be built on trust. For reals. For first season and this season, there's all sorts of shenanigans. I mean, there's mistrust more than there is trust. They're obviously very comfortable with each other, but it's They have built this into a very strange relationship.
Yeah, it is odd, but I like it. I like their dynamic.
Me too.
Isn't the actress who plays the redhead is actually British, right? Isn't she? Doesn't she have an accent in real life? Yeah, it confuses me. There's so many. Yeah, that's how I know her. Yeah, there's so many like questionable accents, and then like she actually has a real one, and they make her an American. It's just interesting to me.
Because she could have been any of the characters in England.
Yes.
I think she's well cast, though. I think she's. I mean,
yeah.
I think she's well cast. So we talked a little about Kit and Matt. Did anybody else want to talk about them anymore?
I mean,
do we think that Kit is out to sabotage them?
Not yet. I don't
trying to help Matthew at this point.
Because the advice that he gives him is bad.
I think he wants to win this version of Matthew over also. Like Matthew Royden, his Matthew Royden is his. Whether it's reciprocated or not, I think it's been reciprocated at least once. But whether it is or not, like he wants to win this one over too, to know that like their connection has lasted through all of these centuries that they've been apart. That it's offensive to him that like he could have a stronger connection than one that they have, or that he could be a different person. Like, do you even write anymore? He asked him like, do you still write? He's like, oh no, now I do science. He's like, science. Yeah. I think I think he just is wanting to hold on to like what they have is so real that it could last forever.
Yeah. It seems silly to me that he wouldn't just tell Kit, like, dude, I'm going to outlive you. Like, you're not going to make it, obviously. Yeah. So it's okay that this version of me is not, you're going to get me back when I come back. So just chill for a while and just wait until it happens. I don't see why he wouldn't do that. But I think that it feels to me, if I were watching this and didn't know anything about what's happening or the books or anything, it would seem to me like Kit is trying to sabotage them from the inside, because he tells him very specifically, listen to my counsel, trying to calm him down out of his like blood rage when he's freaking out. And he tells him that you need to go actually become Matthew Royden. Matthew Royden wouldn't be cruel for sport. He wouldn't waste his time. Basically, like, go kill this guy. Like, it's just going to be the easiest way to get out of it. It's bad advice. Everything bad that happens, or why would he kill him? And number one, it doesn't make sense for Matthew to kill Tom. It doesn't help him with Cecil. It makes Father Hubbard mad, and it causes Father Hubbard to send his dad a note that tells him what's going on, which are the three things he didn't want to do. He wanted to keep Hubbard happy and Cecil happy. He didn't want his dad to know what was going on.
I didn't read it as sabotage, though.
You don't get it?
I get all of that, but I didn't read it as sabotage as much as I read it as like his own internalized, like childish jealousy. Like he wants him to be the Matthew he knows, like go be that Matthew. I didn't read it so much as him like trying to ruin their, whole thing, but maybe that's what he was doing. He did have that like hair, like.
Yeah, just right in his face.
Right in his face. I don't understand how Tom had to die or Diana was going to die. There was a line, a very strident line where he said there was no path for you both to survive or something like that. And I was like, what did I miss? And then I was like, well, he's dead. I don't care. Like really, seriously, I don't care now.
And then also I'm really surprised that there wasn't a discussion between Matt and Diana about this guy, because the read told her, unless it was all happening like at the same time, but the read told her that one of theirs was actually in the tower and being questioned by her, Matt, Master Royden. So
he was innocent. Doesn't she confront him? And that's when he says there was no path for you both to survive or something like that. And then she's just like, all right. And she gets mad and goes down the stairs, I think.
Yeah.
I've only watched this twice.
I mean, there's a point where he's saying that there was treason. He wasn't innocent. He did commit treason, and because he said some bad things about the crown, but it doesn't have anything to do with witches. And I'm assuming that not being able to live has something to do with Hubbard, because it doesn't make any sense that Cecil wouldn't have anything to do with Diana. He's not threatening Diana.
Yeah. And why, I think Jan is asking down there too, like, why did Father Hubbard care about Caldwell at all? Like, Father Hubbard's a vampire, Caldwell's a witch. Like, what was that connection?
Well, Hubbard doesn't just take care of the vampires in the city of London. He's in charge of all the creatures. So demon, witch, vampire, he gets all of them and collects all of them and drinks from all of them, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once they all go through this little ceremony where he drinks from them, then he considers them one of his flock. So.
Yeah. And you have to be, which is weird.
in London, yes. He's the head of the city. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he cared about him because he was in his flock. He was a witch in his flock. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's that. That makes sense, but I still feel like they used Tom Caldwell as a pivot point to bring Hubbard and Cecil and Philippe and Matthew all to one thing, and it just kind of didn't fully work.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I don't know what they could have done differently. Maybe had a witch or something that it was more clear what they had done, or that they were going to be released in some way if they didn't do this, and it was an actual threat to Diana because maybe they saw them come from nowhere or something like that. Like, have Tom Caldwell be a real threat to Diana, and that's why he was picked up, but that would make more sense. But anyway, purely just said, as show watchers, we did not get enough world building to understand all of this. It's clearly complicated and we're missing stuff. I agree.
But it didn't bother me that I didn't understand it. Like, I figured like it wasn't going to be that important. Is how
it's kind of not. It's kind of not. Yeah.
I read it as like making him try to be like his old evil self. Like, that's how I read all of that, was like he lives in a confusing time, and now he's remembering how confusing that time was, but the actual characters didn't seem as important as just the experience of him remembering, like, oh yeah, this sucked. The 1590s were terrible.
Or I was super different.
Sure, or that.
Heidi, I just noticed Pocket Jamie behind you.
My Easter egg! I always have an Easter egg for everyone on my... I was waiting for someone to notice that.
He's so tiny back there.
He's just hanging out. He watches things. He's seen some things.
He knows things.
He knows lots of things. He drinks and he knows things.
He drinks and he knows things, yes.
Oh my goodness.
I wanted to ask y'all, did y'all think that Father Hubbard, did he seem menacing at all? Did you get that vibe from him? Because I was expecting him to be a little bit more menacing, and maybe I read that wrong.
Going to be like the albino in
Twilight.
What was that Tom Hanks movie? Based on the
Angels and Demons? Or no?
Whatever the other one was.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code, yes. That's how I always, exactly.
Yeah.
That's Paul Bettany, right? That's how I always envisioned Father Hubbard. But this guy, who's a lovely actor, he just seems like Eeyore to me.
I got a sexual predator vibe off of it. Not somebody with like power, but somebody who's like creepy.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Looked like his skin would feel damp.
Or moist.
No, just damp.
I realize I'm prejudiced on this from like my Twilight years, but I feel like vampires should be hot. Like, vampires should be hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This world, they freeze when they're made, and they're not all made as young people. They don't like in the Twilight world, they get all of this beauty, but in this world, they freeze in time whenever they're sired. And so,
I am on the clock. Like, I have passed my prime. I'm turning into a vampire now.
Bella would be just disgusted to be you. Bella Swan would be like, I cannot believe I made it to 30 fucking 6 or however.
My eggs are so old.
Yeah.
That's one of the beefs I've always had with, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Yesabo.
Mm-hmm.
In the books, she was sired in the prime of her sexual life. She's like 28-year-old, ravenously beautiful, almost feral. And while I love the actress in all the other stuff that she's been in, she's 65 freaking years old. Yeah. Right? that was one of the great things about the book. It's like when you meet her, you're like, oh my God, this is somebody in literally the prime of her life. And it's been around for 600 years, endless energy, ferocious. And that's not how they cast it. And Philippe is supposed to be godlike beautiful, like almost feminine in his beauty, Zeus-like. And they were a blindingly beautiful couple. Yeah. And instead we have a grandma who can be really pissed and really mean, but that's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Philippe is actually like
years.
Philippe thinks that one of the stories about Philippe is that he was Heracles.
Yeah.
Like, so his like,
but they're going to we haven't seen him at all, right? The character that cast the show. I mean, you guys might have
in trailers, in commercials. That's it.
So he's older, so it's age appropriate for the character they've cast as.
I think he and Matthew Good are about the same age, actually. In real life.
No,
I haven't seen him yet, so I don't know.
It's James Purefoy.
Yeah. Oh, and he's got to go. I mean,
okay.
Very interesting.
Sorry.
If we're not going to get Stanley Weber as Matthew, then Stanley Weber should have been Philippe.
But then Isabeau would have had to been a good 30 years younger.
Yeah, and she should have been the lady from Vikings, Jessalyn, the first queen, not Catherine Winnick, but the first queen. That's who I always had cast. Anyway, but yes,
interesting.
He's a wonderful actor. I think he's probably going to be fine. It's just going to be different.
Yeah. If you can't tell, Karen and I really, really wanted Stanley Weber to be Matthew de Clermont, even though we love Matthew Good.
Love him. But Stanley Weber is Matthew de Clermont.
But can you picture Stanley Weber doing an American or an English accent?
No, he would have had a French accent. He's French.
But Matthew Royden can't have a French accent?
Well, back then, none of them sounded like that. So they would have, Bond in April with the shooter, the Druta March, the first to the Druta is how they would have sounded. So
Siggy was the character in the Vikings that I was thinking of.
Siggy.
I haven't watched Vikings well enough to know who that is, but
Jessalyn Jiglig.
Really pretty.
Yes.
But almost like ugly pretty. Like she's so pretty that it's almost too pretty. That kind of thing.
But that's how, when I read this book, that's who I thought of.
I think that they couldn't do it because of the shortcut of her being Matthew's mother and the visual medium of the shortcut of if she was blindingly beautiful and young, people watching it wouldn't get it.
Yeah,
and they just needed to visually give her age.
Speaking of beauty, can we talk for a second about how the maid now at the chateau has like her hair done and wears makeup now? Did you guys notice that? Because she was pretty homely in season 1, and now she's like all hotted up. I mean,
well, they got a better production budget, and they were like, Mark deserves.
But I was like,
Maybelline.
Is that Martha? Is Martha?
Come from?
Is that who you're speaking of, Karen? Martha?
Yes.
Oh, okay. She didn't notice it at all.
Yeah, she has like eye makeup on. Her hair's did. It's definitely a different look.
Maybe she's kind of into Emily and Sarah, and she wants them to like pull her in.
I'll make you some bread.
She's like, this isn't just about dinner, guys. This isn't just about dinner. Another
more people are in and out to accept tours now, so to the chateau. So
I wish they had like some of the other like little people that work there, like the little the other servants and people that are around. Like it looks so big and lonely, and they're
miserable. I would not want to live there. It looks miserable.
Yeah. We just talk a little bit about how Diana spills the beans to everybody.
Right?
Everybody knows what's going on. She has no guile. She just tells the witches that she's a time spinner and what's really going on, that she's seen the Book of Life. She tells Father Hubbard that she fed Matthew willingly because he was going to die and she'd do it again. Why is she so open? And how does she not have any guile at all? And is this going to be something we're going to have to deal with the rest of the season?
Is being a time spinner dangerous in the books? Like, is people knowing that, would that put her in any danger? Or like, why wouldn't she want them to know that about her?
I think it's just, it changes. It's in the scene, it's like the only thing that she has to give them to prove that she's powerful.
Right.
She's like, well, I'm really from the future, guys. It's kind of it. So that makes sense. It's not that it doesn't make sense that she tells them this. It's just like, how does she not find another way, a workaround? Why is she telling everybody her secrets?
That's kind of a theme, though, in this entire season, albeit just 2 episodes, is there's no magic in the magic. Like, everyone knows. Like, right? Cecil knows that they're all creatures. They're supposed to be hiding in plain sight. No one is supposed to know. Elizabeth, there are references in the book where Elizabeth suspects. She knows there's something different about Matthew Royden, but she chooses not to ask, and chooses to turn a blind eye. She was a faithful, faith-driven woman, right? There were some things you just didn't want to cross the line on, but in this series, it's like everyone knows, and I'm like, well, isn't there supposed to be irony and drama? Isn't there supposed to be secrets and tension? But it's just all out there.
Yeah, Mary Sydney's not supposed to know. And they have this whole scene where she's like, I'm choosing to kind of believe that you're not what my brother said you were. And it's very odd.
Yeah.
There's really no one in the whole series who doesn't know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's not how it's supposed to go.
All of last season not make sense at all. Where Matthew is doing this voiceover so that we all understand the world, where it's like mysterious and we're hiding in plain sight. And, there was a time when we walked the earth but it's like everyone knows there's no secrets.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I wonder if that is on purpose from his little voiceover in season 1. Like there was a time when witches, demons, and vampires, could walk. And maybe this is meant to be that time. Maybe they're making that juxtaposition between the present day.
Why was the covenant formed, right? So that doesn't make sense. The covenant is formed in order to keep the species secret.
But formed in this time. It's formed in the 16th century or before.
Correct. So if they have formed
to keep everyone safe
this time, it's a secret.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, I don't know why everybody knows. I guess because we're just not meeting humans enough. And the humans that we have met, for some reason, no. I don't know why. I don't know why Cecil and Mary Sydney know. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Well, I mean, Diana did animate a snake on a shoe, which I really wanted to see the bee go buzzing by, but and then grabbed it. I mean, that was weird. And then the servants came. She called in the servants to come. Like, what? What was that about? I don't know.
I like that scene though. I mean, I like that she's just so fascinated by her shoe that the snake comes to life. Like, it's indicative that she has no control of her power, that her power is wild and based on her own kind of just latent desires. And I'm sure there's just some latent desire to be like, that is such a beautiful embroidery. It looks real. And then it becomes real.
It becomes real. Yeah.
Is Mary a character later on, or is that just because it was fun for her to talk about someone from history?
No, she makes several appearances.
Okay.
I don't know if she does in the show, but
I'm a little gun shy because of the other show we watched where George Washington will pop up and Benedict Arnold, and so just
ask him behind you. Just turn around and ask him.
Yeah. Mary Sydney's, a real person, and she did want to put her in the show, and in the book she does have kind of a bigger, more expanded role in what Diana's doing. But they're spending a lot more time in London in the book than they are on the show. So but she does come back, there'll be more characters too that we're going to meet this season. So, all right. Next week.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Katie just said that she loved the Mary Sydney casting and her set, her home. I loved her home. It was gorgeous. I also noticed all of the jars of dead animals floating. And it was like, what in the world is, trying to figure out, well, what is that? That looks like a dead seal or something, or a baby seal floating in some liquid. So
her lab was exactly how I pictured it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was exactly, because the book, it was floor to ceiling windows, and you don't see that anywhere else in London. Look where Matthew and Diana are living, right? It's smoked glass. It's dark all the time. And here's this Renaissance woman who is, learning about science and practicing science, has this light and airy. I mean, the metaphors are wonderful. And it was exactly how I pictured it. It was great.
Yeah. And I love that actress. I can't think of her name right now, but she's in. She plays Mary Musgrove in Persuasion.
Oh,
Not in my favorite version of Persuasion. She plays, unfortunately, in the Sally Hawkins version of Persuasion, which is no good. But still, she plays a good Mary Musgrove.
I'm not sure we needed her hair quite that color, but I love the actress. Yes.
Yeah, she's great. And for those of you that are worried, I hope they do okay with her CGI familiar. I'm assuming that they'll have that done with CGI. I can't speak to the familiar, but I will speak to some of the other CGI that I've seen later in this season, and it's excellent.
It is.
What is a familiar?
Haha.
Oh, patience.
The familiar is a magical animal that maybe only you can see, that you conjure.
It's their Patronus. Gotcha.
It's Patronus.
Similar, yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Diana gets a dragon familiar.
Is it a dragon or something else? It's a dragon-like creature, but it's something else.
Yeah, it's called
A
something
fire
else.
drake.
A fire drake.
Thank you, Lachey. Yes.
Is it what show or book am I thinking of where like the word for it's where or where in the show for vampire, but isn't where a word for dragon in something else?
Wyvern.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Wyvern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you have kids that are into dragons and dinosaurs and Pokemon, and you know the difference between a wyvern and a dragon and an alicorn and a unicorn. These are things I know.
Jana, who was she in The White Queen?
I feel like she's on the Spanish side. She's the red princess, maybe, in The White Queen.
Okay.
Oh man,
I can't remember.
I know her in something low brow because of the way her jaw moves, but I can't place what it is. It's something I watched that none of you have probably seen. That I know.
The Bachelor?
I wish. Fantastic.
What British show is lowbrow enough for you to have watched it?
EastEnders.
Temptation Island, Love Island, UK, all those ones.
Yeah, she's someone's mom. She wanted her son to rule. She's the red one. There's the white queen that marries, and then there's the red one who's like the sister or something, and she's always praying. She wants her son to be king.
okay.
That's who she. Yeah, yeah. I can't remember who they are either, but good show.
Yeah, I remember the White Princess. I actually didn't see the White Queen.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. Emily just said the only way is Essex.
I think that's what it was.
I've never even heard of that. We should just thank Heidi for even watching A Discovery of Witches because it's so far out of her wheelhouse.
It is.
No one is tan and in a hot tub. No one is,
There's no
around.
Roses.
There's no host telling us everything.
It is a struggle, but I am here for you guys.
All right. Well, this has been a great chat. We're going to talk about episode 3 next week. Same time, same channel. Hopefully you guys will join us and send us your questions ahead of time. Like I'm live tweeting the show on Saturday nights with the studios. And so live tweet with us or send us questions ahead of time on Twitter or email them to us. You can email me at beth@thecooltable.com. And we'll, answer your questions there in here instead of you guys having to just like interject and hope I see it. But there weren't too many of you tonight, so that was easy. So anyway, thanks for coming, you guys. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.